Welcome to the Rad Conversations podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Rad Conversations. This week, my guest is Jolene, and we have a very intriguing conversation. We talk about her being a death doula, a psychic medium, and Akashic Records reader. All that and more coming up on this episode of Rad Conversations. And remember, if you enjoy the show, please like, subscribe, and share. All right, let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Jolene.
Thank you for having me.
Could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
I am a single mom. I work with special needs, but I also have my own personal spiritual business where I'm a death doula, medium, psychic. I also am a minister, so I marry people.
Well, is there a website people can get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you?
Yes, soulexpansionguidance.com.
What is a death doula?
A death doula is, there's birth doulas. They help with the birthing, almost like a midwife. So a death doula kind of helps someone that's having terminal illness go through the process of death in a peaceful way.
Nice.
It just kind of is something that over time people have kind of asked me to help with someone who's terminally ill. And so I didn't know it was a term for a long time. I just knew I did it.
What's the process? Like you get a sense like it's going to happen that day, or is it over weeks? You kind of visit this person, or
you visit the person, you just know, like the first time I experienced it, I had been volunteer as a teenager. I used to volunteer with kids who have AIDS. And so there was a pastor that knew about this, and he said, I have someone in my congregation who's at the end of their life. They're dying of cancer, and the wife just needs some respite sometimes. So I stayed with them for like a couple of weeks and helped her so she could have some sleep. I just kind of took care of him. And he, for some reason, thought I was his granddaughter, which kind of gave him peace. I think at the end of life, sometimes people need permission to go, or they need to say goodbye to certain people. And this particular granddaughter was out of state. And I think that maybe that's just how it worked out, that I looked like her and helped him through that passage. Yeah.
I was with my grandfather. He passed away last summer, and I was with him the last couple of days. And it was just fascinating. He lived to be over 100, and on his last couple of days, he just kept looking around the room going, you got to get me out of here. There's too many people in here. And he just kept whipping his head back and forth, and we just assumed it was all angels in the room with him. But he was adamant on us getting him out of that room because it was just filled with too many people. And he said that angels took him to a party last night, and he was upset with the angels because they used his furniture from his house, and they didn't pay him for it. And then he was just talking about all the rum on the walls, which, but it was just fascinating, his journey the last couple of days. So I'm sure you've seen some interesting.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people have those experiences where they see passed on loved ones or angels, or sometimes they're experiencing memories from past lives. I think I've seen that as well. My mother also, I helped her at her end, and she had cancer, and I saw some of that where she would talk about things that weren't in this lifetime, and but maybe she needed to share that, and her soul needed to kind of purge that stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. So of all the things you help people with, what do you get the biggest requests for? What do you help the most people with?
When I first started, I got a lot of people asking me, can you do some tarot readings for relationships and stuff? But over time, I just started I think that you kind of draw in what you're meant to, like your frequency kind of brings in the right people. And I just started to always have people that were on this brink of, I want to figure out what my soul path is. So sometimes it would be college students, sometimes it would be someone who just retired and didn't know what to do with the rest of their life. And they're like, oh, now my life is mine. What am I supposed to be doing with it? So yeah, I think I would end up getting a lot of that, and um, sometimes it's through tarot, and then I start to get other things like from their past lives or whatever, and I channel messages to them too. So yeah.
Oh, and you also do Akashic Records. I'm hoping to do a session with you that because that's fascinating to me. Have you done a
Yeah.
lot of Akashic Records?
Yes. Like at first I didn't understand. Like I was new to all this stuff and I didn't even know what Akashic records were. And I was reading for somebody, one of my friends, and I start telling her about her past life, and she goes, you connect to the Akashic records?" I'm like, I guess. And then I just started becoming more intentional. I started learning about what the Akashic records were, and yeah, I do connect to the Akashic records, and I can see different lifetimes, and really to me what comes up is really what that person needs to know for this lifetime. So yeah.
And could you tell everybody what the Akashic Records are?
Some people would call it the book of life, right? So there's records that are kept of all of our lifetimes, and this life, and sometimes you can even access in the Akashic records things from this life that maybe in the future you're meant to do, missions, things like that. So it's an array of information, but it's really you're focused on that person and their soul and what they've experienced and what they're meant to experience in the future, kind of thing. So
Without naming names, of course, could you give us an example? Like you did Akashic Records for somebody and you found out that they were a high priestess or something like that.
oh yeah. Um, well, one of my friends, I do know she was a high priestess, and there was some information that she codes or something. It seemed like she was connected to Atlantis, and I saw her kind of hiding some things in the. Um, okay, I'm being cautious here because they're cautioning me. She has information. I'll just say that she had kind of hidden in a vault, and so I gave her that information. Like she has a lot of esoteric knowledge. I'll say that. So yeah, I've
Nice.
had other friends that are. Um, I've seen them as Mother Mary. I've seen people with lifetimes of Indian chiefs. I've seen people as angelic beings, having lifetimes as angelic beings. So just all kinds of array of, and some, I just always say, be open-minded when give it, because I will just see maybe things you didn't think you have experienced. So
And with Mother Mary, people say that they have experience with maybe Mother Mary or Jesus, and they have a near-death experience. Do you feel like it's a bunch of different souls combined, or do you think Mother Mary is just one soul, or do you think it's like a group of souls? Does
I
that
believe,
make sense what I'm saying?
yes, I believe that we have multi dimensions. I think there could be many, and I think it's an energetic field, an energetic archetype, if you will. Um, so there could be many people that might have that experience of that life, and they carry those codes. So for me, Mother Mary carries these codes of compassion and love, unconditional love, right? So, and it's a very feminine energy, a very motherly energy. So I would say someone who has that code in them has that they're bringing into this lifetime.
Yeah, I believe we're all connected. Do you think that's where all knowledge is kept on that energetic field?
Yes, and I think we can all tap into it. I think that we just are taught not to um, pay attention to those senses as a kid. Oh, that's just your imagination, or we kind of play off some of these things that we see as children that perhaps are just really, really there. Well, I believe they're there. I'm just saying perhaps for I don't know the
Yeah.
naysayer.
I mean, like when you're thinking of somebody and they call you right before you call them, and you're like, oh, that's just a coincidence. Or maybe you were just kind of tuned in to their frequency at that time.
100%.
And and once
I
again, like people don't
yes, I
think
do.
twice about it, but maybe you should think twice about it.
Yeah. You all have that intuition, and it happens often. Like, how many times do you have a thought, ugh, I'm frustrated with the situation, and if only I could talk to my significant other, and then they call you, you know? And it doesn't just happen with them, but I think that the more we connect with people, the more connected to their field we are, right? So those that are closest to us, we can kind of see that a little, gauge that a little more. Um,
And I just try to remember the small moments in life, just like that. Like you're thinking of your wife or your husband, and they call you right then. Or the other day, my wife and I are doing a puzzle. She did the heavy lifting of the puzzle. She put 99% of the puzzle together. One morning, I got up early before I went to work, and I put a couple more pieces in, and I could have finished off the puzzle, but I didn't because I didn't want to take the glory of her finishing off the puzzle. And I left maybe 8 pieces left, and I put one piece in, and I was like, no, I'm going to take that piece out because it's really getting too close to the end of the puzzle. So I took the piece out, and I put it a couple inches from where it goes, so it's easy for her to line up or whatever. And I went to work. I came back. She went to work, and when I got home, I know some of the pieces were in. And when she got home, I was like, "Oh, you worked on the puzzle a little bit?" And she's like, "No, I never touched it." But the piece that I pulled out was back in the
interesting.
puzzle. And I mean, once again, like you could say, well, I forgot or whatever, breaking the matrix or something that, even though it's a puzzle piece, that's something to kind of think about and not just forget about and move on to the next thing. Do you have a lot of different breaks in the matrix in your universe, Jolene?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So it's, you know, sorry, my dog likes to bark at anybody walking. Um, what do they call that?
Mandela Effect?
Yeah, the Mandela Effect. So like, the Berenstain Bears and all those things, I have a lot of those same things, but I can give you when I was having my awakening, there was one time I uh, drove by Walmart and completely different. The atmosphere, like there was all these trees that had been grown. They were there for a long time, but I knew last week I went there and it wasn't like that. So I was like, have I jumped a timeline? It's just
Right.
some things like that happen, and if you pay attention to them, um, yeah.
Yeah, of all the Mandela effects, which one kind of gets you the most?
Jane, is it Jane Goodall, the one who just passed away? The,
Yeah,
the
the monkey lady, the gorilla
yes,
lady.
I knew like for me, she died a like 5 years ago or something like that. She had been gone for a long time, and I talked to my other friend, and he's like, I agree. Like I know other people who felt the same way, and so that one was just like really trippy for me because I remembered it being in the news and blah blah blah. So
I've always wanted to ask somebody this. I'm just going to ask you. You're the lucky one, Jolene. How come with these Mandela effects, and I believe in Mandela effects because I think we've all lived it,
yeah,
how come it's not a major thing? And I'm just going to say the Eiffel Tower. Eiffel Tower's in Paris. How come one day we don't wake up and the Eiffel Tower's in Florida? How come it's always something that's like, I don't know if I remember that right or not? It's always minor tweaks here and there. Any ideas on that?
I really can't answer that question, but I sometimes wonder if we've avoided catastrophes by jumping those timelines. Um, because I've had like predictions or visions of, I'll say like a nuclear war thing happening, and I kind of feel like maybe that did happen on a different timeline. So I think sometimes we avoid those big catastrophe type things. Um, I don't know. There's no way of
Yeah.
proving.
Well, yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, there's a lady, her name's Suzanne Spooner, and she regresses people in a past life, and she's on YouTube, and a couple of the people that she regresses into a past life, a lot of them, and I haven't seen her in a while, but a lot of them go back to 1994. There was an alien invasion, and I believe 60% of our population got knocked out. But then something happened, switching the timeline. It went back a second before they invaded us and set everything back to where it was. And I've never heard that until I start watching her regressions and stuff.
Yeah.
But how many different people say 1994 we got invaded by aliens, and that's just not a thing. I'm glad we're here. You know, I'm not looking for that outcome. If we did go back in time, I'm glad we went back in time.
And that could be like, you know, I kind of feel like sometimes deja vu is that, where it's like a glitch, right? And we remember being in that moment, right? I've had some times where they've lasted, you know, a good while, like a 10-minute deja vu.
Wow.
You know, where I can remember.
Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was really weird and it was simple. It wasn't like some crazy thing. I just was in the liquor store with my friend. I knew who was going to walk in the door. I remembered what I chose, what items I chose. And I don't know why I still just decided to choose the things that I remember to, you know, like, oh, I don't know if it was a brownie or what, chips, whatever. And I remember telling her and she was like, oh my gosh, that's demonic. And I was just like, okay. Because I grew up in a very strict Christian home. So a lot of my experiences, you know, I kind of would keep to myself because people always judge them as wrong. So, but yeah, that one lasted probably about 10 minutes. I remember what the cashier said to me. I remember what she was talking about, you know, the whole thing. It was quite interesting. Wow. Yeah.
And do you believe in multiverse and parallel lives? And
yes, I do.
That be deja vu too, or?
Yeah, I do think that. And that's why I think it's like maybe there was like a time where both were doing the same thing at the same time, kind of a thing, overlapping, or, you know, sometimes it's you've shifted timelines and you've moved on to a different, you know, maybe multiverse universe.
So, like, when you were going through the deja vu for like 10 minutes and you knew the cashier was going to say something, but you never like, oh, I'm actually going to
change
get
it.
Bud Light instead of Miller Lite. Yeah. Or you were just so fascinated by it that you just wanted to go in that stream.
Yeah, for some reason, I just stuck with the stream because I was kind of tripping out. Like,
yeah,
this is weird. And so I was just kind of in an observation mode. And so I didn't want to think about anything else. I just wanted to take in what was happening. So I just kind of made the same choice. So
I don't blame you one bit because I'd be doing the same. Just because, I mean, how many times does that happen to you? So to be able to live in that moment for like 10 minutes is pretty spectacular. Do you get deja vu quite a bit?
I get it, but I never had it as long as I had it that day. That day was pretty long. So that's why it was so like trippy for me.
But you grew up in a religious household?
Very, yes.
And how did that kind of put you on your path that you're on now?
I mean, there were things that I do feel I learned because I really did have a good heart when it came to Christianity. I embraced who Jesus was. I enjoyed his teachings and felt close to Jesus. And so as far as like coming to a place of compassion and love for others, I do think it brought me to that place. Do I think that it created a lot of fear? Yes. I think it created a lot of fear of my gifts. It made me feel like any kind of outside of the box spiritual thing might have been demonic. So I was scared of it. And I had a grandmother who was psychic and she would talk to me about a lot of stuff and I could feel the presence of spirits in her house. And it scared me. And she said, hey, you have a gift. you're going to come into it. And then she also emphasized that we're Cherokee and we're metaphysical by our nature. And she's like, one day you're going to mix Christianity with your metaphysical beliefs and you're going to come into your gifting. And I said, okay, Grandma, I'm not really wanting that, but I just let her tell me that and kind of moved on. But yeah, then I would talk to my mom, and my mom was very against all that stuff. So it was just really difficult to navigate, I think.
Did you want to spend more time with Grandma since she was helping you along that process?
I think I was afraid of the gift, so I was running from it. I was running.
And what age did you first experience one of your gifts?
I remember, this is going to be a really weird one. Okay. So when I was
Perfect.
3 years old, when I must have been 3 or 4, based on the house that we were in, and I started having this vision, and in the vision I had like these symbols all around my whole body, just circling around me, and they were like symbols from all the different religions that Muslim, Hindu, Buddhism, Christianity, like the Bible was. It was just all going around me, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't fully understand. I was always in church with my mom, and then I saw another vision. Now looking back, that vision was it was a human-like alien being in a ship, and they were watching on a screen, watching humanity. So I told my mom, "Hey, Mom, did you know angels watch over us?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure." But that's how I perceived it. I perceived it as angels, and why not? Why wouldn't angels be that? It's just it's just another being not from this planet or this realm.
So the symbols that you first saw from all different religions, and you saw that at the age of 3, how did you know? Were you exposed to other religions at that point, or how did you know other symbols represent? And what would you see for Christianity? What symbol? A
It was
cross, or
a
what did
Bible.
you see?
Yeah, it was just a Bible,
A
like
Bible.
a black thing saying Holy Bible. Um, I just have the memory of it, and I didn't understand it at the time.
You just knew.
Yeah. So as I got older, I would go back to that memory and go, that was really weird. I was probably like more conscious and aware of it like at 7 or 8, and I would remember that. So, um, yeah.
Wow. And then roughly at the same time you had the vision of aliens looking at a screen looking down on us, about the same
Yeah.
age.
Yes.
And have you had that image again later in life?
I never had that again. Um, but I mean, I've had other encounters and things. Yeah. So,
Do you think aliens are monitoring us?
yeah, I think that they're aware, and I think that sometimes people channel their messages. Um,
Bashar,
yeah,
do you know the guy Bob Lazar?
Bob Lazar. That name sounds familiar, but I can't think of. But I
I
don't.
believe he is the first whistleblower on Area 51.
Oh, okay. Uh huh. Yeah.
And he was doing an interview, and he was saying a bunch of stuff. And one of the things he was saying, hey, you're not going to believe me, but I saw a book this thick. It was CIA classified documents about religion. And he went on to start talking about something else, and the guy pulled him back. He's like, no, you got to tell us one thing that you saw in that classified religion book. And he's like, you're not going to believe me. And he's like, tell me. And he's like, okay. He's like, we're just containers for souls.
Yes.
And that's how the aliens see us. And
yes.
We're just containers. Okay, so you get the same feeling then.
Yes. This is just a meat suit. We are containers for souls. Yes.
I agree 100%. That we're just down here living the human experience
This is our
so we can
soul
experience
choosing
it.
this adventure. There are other
I'm sorry, you
adventures.
cut out a little bit. Could you say that? Could you
This
say
is
that
our
one more
soul
time?
choosing the adventure of Earth. you know, and there's other realms, layers, whatever you want to call it, dimensions that are other planes of existence. And I do believe that our souls are so huge that sometimes we're just part of our soul is here and part of our soul is there.
I had a lady on a couple podcasts ago, and she explained it like, it's like you stick your finger in water, and your finger's in the water, and just the tip of it,
Yeah.
and you just become one with water, but you forget that your finger's attached to your arm, which is attached to your body, and there's a large amount of
Yeah.
yourself that you're just not aware of, but it's there.
Right. And that's why
Would you
people
agree
talk
with that?
about yourself, to try to connect to your higher self. That's what your higher self is. You know, there is a higher level of understanding we just aren't attached to because we're so involved in this human experience.
I think aliens are down here right now. I think they walk among us. Do you? Well, I mean, I'll just ask you. Do you know any famous people that you ever get the feeling that so and so is an alien? And we can cut it out, But I'm always fascinated by that kind of talk. Do you get the feeling anybody that?
I think Michael Jackson was. I think a lot are. I think there's everyday people that are, um, whether it's an incarnation of them being, their soul being alien, or something different.
Because I mean, yeah. When people say, "Oh, that they're coming down here living the human experience," or aliens are down here monitoring us, and I'm like, well, of course they are the pop stars or they're the super athletes. Because why would you come down here and just be an average person and not have people worship you on a certain level? If you could have that ability, wouldn't you come down here for that experience? Does that resonate at all with you, or do you think
No,
they're all?
I don't necessarily think that. I think that sometimes people are here to come in and incarnate in a way of raising the vibration. And I think, well, here's another theory I have that a lot of our kids who have autism or ADHD are also very big souls that are more evolved than the average human, and their bodies can't handle that energy, but they're here to teach us something, right? To evolve, to help humanity evolve. And so, um,
That's
yeah,
that's what I've heard too. Like that severe autism, maybe they're already almost living in the fourth dimension, and
yeah,
they're trying to live in the third dimension while living in the fourth dimension. Have you heard of the telepathy tapes?
I have heard of the telepathy tapes. I haven't watched or listened to them the whole way through. But I have been working with special needs for the past decade, so I have a lot of experience
So I
with that.
mean, okay? So that all resonates with you then.
Very much. And then my son is also on the spectrum. Um, I remember I worked with this little boy, and I was going through a really bad breakup, and he was almost all the way nonverbal. He could say certain words, but when I sat with him and I was feeling this sadness, he started to cry, and he's putting his head on my head, and I knew this little boy feels what I am feeling, and he knows that I'm going through something hard, and it was almost a telepathic experience. And at one point, he even said, "Sorry, sorry." And then I said, "I need to pull back my energy. I can't let this kid feel my sorrow." you know, and at that point I was already in my gifting. And so I kind of understood energy a bit more. So I did pull back, but it just was another example to me of Yeah, these guys are way in tune.
Were they just picking up your energy, or were they also you hear about some of them that can read minds of their parents?
Yeah,
Did you ever get that idea?
I kind of have experienced it with my son and I, where I say, and I'm in my head, I'm like, I really feel like a taco. And then my son will say, Mom, let's go get some tacos. Like literally seconds later, Um, because he's verbal. He's not as, he's very high functioning. Um, I had another experience when my son was a baby. This is a weird one. Um, I heard him crying. He was in his pack and play. I went in and he tells me somebody picked me up. And I'm like, okay. And I just calmed him down. I'm like, there's nobody here. But he was no longer in his pack and play. He was on my bed in just a matter of like, he shouldn't have had time to climb out. Um, so I just stayed with him and put him back to sleep. And then later on, I was working with one of my clients who has autism. And he's there and he's saying, nope, don't you dare do that. You put Miss Jolene's son down. You can't take care of him. You cannot hold him. Put him down. Put him down. And I'm like, and I see time is not linear. This was, not at the same exact time, but I thought it was very interesting because it reminded me of what I had just experienced
Oh
with
wow!
yeah. So I've had some interesting experiences like that. Yeah.
Do you feel like everything's happening all at once right now on Earth?
I think everything's happening all
Like,
at once. But I do think
okay,
of a
my
spiral. Often think of a spiral as well.
if there's no such thing as time and everything's happening all at once right now, how do we have ancestors? How do we? You have kids, and then they'll have kids, and
This present reality, that's what it. I mean, that's how we categorize it and we make sense of it to ourselves, right? But so we experience time as linear in our humanity, right? So that's why we categorize it. But the more I never thought of it this way until I started going into the Akashic Records and going into past lives and my own past lives and my, connecting with my guides. And I started to see as I evolve as a person, sometimes some of my other things change or I maybe I access more information. I'm not sure. But yeah, it just kind of made, I would see things a certain way. I could see it like it affects what I'm doing now, also affects the past, if that makes sense. And it also affects the future. So then things are shifting, whether it's going to a different timeline, we can look at it that way, or however you want to look at it.
Thanks for watching the show today, folks. And if you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and share. And like always, stay rad.